So good evening, everyone. Today, we are going to discuss a new topic, creating customer personas. It's a very interesting topic, which you all should be aware of. Persona is something which we all try to use it. We all try to create it as marketeers when we are trying to sell something, when we are trying to craft anything, when we are trying to understand who our customers are. So when we talk about customer analytics, this is one of the important aspects that you all should be aware of on how to use the data coming from the customers and how can you create or understand more about them and carve out personas which can actually help you to communicate better, understand better, create offerings better, because persona is an important topic when it comes to marketing. So we'll definitely discuss this in detail in today's session, and also we'll do a class activity at the end. So to begin with, what is a persona? Can anyone tell me?
Sir, persona is an image of a person, of an ideal customer, which a company or a. Oh, I'm saying this. Hello, am I
Yeah, go
audible?
ahead. I can hear you.
Okay,
Go
okay.
ahead.
Yeah. Persona is the image or the imaginary character of an ideal customer for a particular product or for a particular company.
Very good. That's beautifully presented. Yes. So that's what persona is all about. So persona is the aspect of someone's character, first of all, that is presented to or perceived by the others. So what we call it as personality, we try to capture the personality in the form of persona. In the context of marketing, a persona refers to an ideal customer, as I has rightly pointed out, an ideal customer or customers for the business. They are defined by a mixture of a lot of attributes like demographic, shopping habits, location, that is geographic, job role or description, the interest that they have shown across in the product, the channels through which they shop, that's coming under the shopping habit, the need for the product, why do they want to buy the product, the psychographic elements. These are some of the aspects that can help you to define a particular customer. Who can be the right target ideal customer for me? Okay, so that's something you should be aware of. Your marketing persona is a fictional representation of an actual user. See, here you need to understand the difference between persona and the target audience. See, persona for you is more about a single ideal customer. What is his personality? Based on the real data that you're capturing from different customer touch points, you're trying to do segmentation, you're trying to analyze them, you're trying to do some ethnographic research, surveys, interviews, capture more information, and then define who is my ideal customer, precisely what the person's character is, discuss about the habits, discuss about the behavior. All these aspects are captured in the name of persona. But target audience, which we generally use it in marketing, is slightly different. It is not persona as such. Target audience is an X. So like I can say that a person who is working at bigger companies, marketing managers between 30 and 45 years old, they don't spend much time online. So it's a broad definition. You're not looking at an ideal customer, a broader segment you're looking at. You don't talk about the habits, you don't talk about the lifestyle, you don't talk about behavior much as such. People who might be interested in my product, I call them as the target segment. You're not calling anyone in specific there, but persona is very much specific. Who is your customer? What is the specific character of the customer? So that's the difference between persona versus target audience. In fact, if you notice in today's world, considering the e-commerce and other aspects that have come in, Web 2.0, 3.0, when we talk about all these aspects, today, most of us gather a lot of data as marketeers from different touch points. Now, with so much data available, every brand is trying to understand more about the customer. From the traditional way of segmenting the customers and looking at them, today we are trying to get more specific and understand more about how can I target individuals? What is the specific need that they have? What is the character of the person? How can I convince that person better? So from the broader group, I'm slowly getting specific to an individual, and I'm trying to personalize, customize offerings so that I can target that individual customer. So in the previous customer analytics session, we discussed more about how to segment the customers. That's the broader one. Now, with all the data that you're collecting, can you be more precise? Can you personalize content in a much better way? That is something which is possible. That's where we talk about creating personas. When we talk about personas, we capture all the details about that individual customer, and you apply all the insights that you have got, the ideal profile that you have got, you apply that in your decision making in the early stages of product development and product redesign. The focus, the purpose, if you look at it, it is to bring more focus into product development, more focus into marketing on why exactly one individual or that person is coming to me. What is the need? What is the goal? Rather than a broader idea of what the segment is all about. So that's the reason, if you notice, many times when we talk about personas, we give specific names. Instead of calling it like a segment, I say Marcus, I say Shannon, and I have pictures, everything captured very clearly. Pictures need not be a real one, by the way. Pictures, you just try to present it across saying that a personality or a kind of even, you can use any celebrities photos also, it doesn't matter. But the focus is more on presenting that individual, creating a ideal customer point. So that's what persona is all about. While the people and the pictures can be functional or fictional, sorry, the details are very much factual. It represents the goals, characteristics, and should represent the real needs of the larger group of customers. So you're saying that, of course, here also you talk about target segment, but micro segments and nano segments, as we discussed earlier. In those segments, who is that ideal customer in the segment according to you? How do you define that ideal customer? So ideally, personas for marketing should be a staple of your strategy to make better decisions and investments. So a marketing persona is a composite sketch of a key segment of your audience. What is a composite sketch? Can anyone make a guess? What is a composite sketch? English meaning? Any guesses here?
A composite sketch means taking all the necessary or relevant elements and composing it into a one body.
Okay, very good. All the elements, fine. Any other responses?
All the necessary elements, all the means picking out all the suitable elements from different aspects and clustering it together in one body.
Okay, good. So composite is that. Okay, that's the right one. In fact, you are considering multiple elements, not just one attribute. Composite means multi-dimensional, multi-perspective. You are trying to give different perspectives about and identify or look at a ideal customer from multiple dimensions. Okay, so of a key segment of your audience, let's look at each of these terms because this is what is going to help you to understand what persona is all about. So composite sketch, when we say that, we try to say a marketing persona is not just supposed to detail on one specific person and should never be based off one specific individual. You're not going to take some random sample from the segment and say that this is what my ideal customer is. Instead, you're trying to understand more about the segment. It is a composite sketch that would actually reflect the majority of the people it is supposed to represent. Like, look at the example that you're seeing on the right side. We talk about different dimensions like personal info, professional goals, challenges that they face, and how can you help? How does your product meet the needs? What questions might they ask related to your product? Does your language match theirs? You look at all these aspects and then you try to establish that connect with that ideal customer. So in a way, Composite is multi-dimensional view of that one majority segment of the customers that you have. So personal info, that's where the demographic attributes come into picture, the age, gender, hobbies, location, interest, income. You look at all these aspects. When you talk about professional goals, you are trying to understand what are their career goals. What does success look like for them? What is their end game? You look at all these aspects. In fact, I'll tell you, yesterday, I mean, one of my teams from IIM Calcutta, they are doing a live project with one of the startups I'm associated with. It is called And We Met. I think I have told this earlier to you. And We Met is a dating platform in a way, matchmaking platform. I'll put it that way, because India is not a mature dating industry as such. So it's a matchmaking platform where people can come together, connect, and based on the relationships they would like to have, the meaningful relationships which they would like to start, they can start through this platform. That's what this platform is all about. Yesterday, I was discussing about creating the persona with my students there. What would be the right ideal persona? So based on the discussion with the founder, the startup founder, my students came up with a clear-cut attributes, demographic attributes, psychographic attributes, what kind of people would be fitting in, what kind of interest they'll be having. So we were trying to look at all these aspects to get a broader view of what an ideal customer of this platform would be. And then we started focusing on the digital marketing campaigns. If this is the ideal customer, where can I find them? Can I find them in Instagram? Can I find them in YouTube? Or if I have to get to Instagram, which are the pages I need to target? How can I communicate? What kind of hashtags I need to use? Should I use Reels? What exactly I should do in Instagram? These are some of the discussions that started evolving once we fixed who our ideal customer is, who our ideal persona is. The moment the persona is fixed, everything else becomes easier for you. Because at the end of the day, marketing is all about understanding the needs and wants of this ideal customer, this persona. The detailed understanding that you'll have about this persona is actually going to help you to drive broader campaigns. And that makes a significant difference in your marketing effort. So composite sketch is one important aspect. And then you are trying to look at representing a segment of your target market, not the whole thing. Your target market will be bigger. It may have multiple segments. And for each segment, you're looking at one ideal persona for the broader segment. So if your target market is marketeers, let's say, it is perfectly acceptable to have multiple personas for the different types of marketeers, as long as there is enough of a difference between them to warrant a separate persona. Tell me one thing. In your college, can you identify different personas of ideal customers for your college?
Yes.
Yes. Now let's do a quick discussion. I would request all of you to participate. I know 2-3 people are usually active, but I want everyone to participate. So now tell me this. What are the 2 or 3 types of personas that you will identify from your market segment for your college? You are a B school. Now look at it from that point of view. What would differentiate those 2 or 3 personas, and how would you differentiate them?
So some of them are fresh.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Akash, go please. No, Akash, you go please.
So first, I would say that there are freshers who are recently graduated from college or university, and maybe they are from the age group between 20 to 22 or 23. and the other persona is of the people, the working professionals who has already been in the industry for 2 to 3 years, and the age group can be between 23 to 26 or 27. So this can be the different personas for the people who are willing to do MBA.
Very good. Yes. So even though the demographic attributes may be very much common, the interest levels or the reason for which they are choosing the program may be different, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, and
So,
also the student who are looking for a brand like Birla name is associated with BIMTech.
mhm.
So the students who are looking to pursue their PGDM from such a brand, and in a comparatively low fees, because BIMTech's fees is only 12 lakhs, the tuition fees, which is less as compared to other B schools which are having 15 or 16 lakhs as the tuition fees. So the students who are looking for a good brand, a known brand in the market with a comparatively low fees, that can be a ideal customer for BIMTech.
Also, sir, there are some people who are working in any particular field and they want to have a change in their careers. So they can go for it, or maybe if someone who is recently graduated but think that they can explore some other options apart from their graduation field, so they can also choose to have a PGDM. So
Very
they
good.
can be a target audience.
Very
And
good.
also, sir, I want to add one more thing. Our college is famous for an insurance in insurance management. So, target audience would be the working persons who are working in an insurance industry and want to grow within the industry would be an ideal candidate for our colleges as well.
Very good, Siddhartha. So you brought in a beautiful point. Let me add a quick point there. So for every company, there need not be an ideal customer, ideal persona. You should have for every product, there can be multiple personas. So BIMTech as an institution have multiple programs, multiple courses. For each program, there can be multiple personas. Like as Siddhartha mentioned, insurance management for this program, there can be an ideal persona from the people who are already in the insurance space. There can be some other ideal persona from UG segment who may be interested to do this program. So you need to understand that for every product, there is a target segment, not for the every brand, not for the every company. It is for every product. You will have a target segment. And the moment you have target segment, there'll be multiple personas in that target segment because there are so many segments in the target market, isn't it? Good. I hope you got a perspective. You understood what persona is, because understanding persona is important while we try to deep dive and
Sir,
look at.
your voice.
Yeah, can you hear me? Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm facing some
Okay, no
network.
worries.
Sorry from my.
No problem. So for every product, there will be personas. So you need to understand what persona is before defining or before making use of persona, before understanding how to create a persona from the data that is available to us. So you may have multiple marketeer personas broken up by business size or industry or whatever makes sense for your business in your segment. Okay. So moving on, let's understand the importance of personas. What is the benefit of doing it? So in this segment and the next segment, I'm going to discuss a bit more to make you understand the purpose of doing it, the advantages of doing it, actually. So generally, any company, when it's focused on developing a product, so they start to wonder what a hypothetical customer would want to do. And you start building in new features to support these possible scenarios. You look at different aspects, then you start developing your own product, what a hypothetical customer would do. Now, the managers, the product managers on ground, the developers on ground, if it is a software product, they spend a lot of time discussing all sorts of scenarios. And that is typically part of the product development, right? So looking at what the customer would want, how do they want it? Is it needed by every customer or is it needed by only a specific segment? So what they want and meeting that requirement is something which is an important aspect for a product manager. But however, there is a difference between making sure a product meets core customer goals and getting bogged down in making sure a product can do everything. This is one aspect. Even in my current role as a chief strategy officer for a product company, we keep discussing in our daily scrum. Okay, this requirement has come from this particular product, this client on this product. Should we include this as a feature? This is a debate that we regularly have within the company. Because when we develop a product, we always tend to keep it like one size fits all. That's what we try to achieve. But when you're trying to fix that one size fits all objective, you cannot provide a solution to every customer problem. You need to look at where you need to generalize, where you need to ignore, where you need to capture it. You need to look at all these aspects. And that's where the persona makes a difference. Because when you create a persona and then look at that persona, oh, this persona needs this, then yes, I need to include it. If I don't have a persona, it's going to be a debatable topic every time, because everyone will have their view whether to have it or not. The persona will actually be able to guide you better when you define it. So what we call it as unusual scenarios or edge cases. Edge cases means very few people are using it. There are exceptional scenarios. Ideally, not all customers need it. So you tend to ignore that to include it as part of the product functionality. So like, for example, a customer might want to customize a toolbar in a software program. A customer might want to access the command line. A customer might want to code plugins. This is from the software point of view. Take Maggie, for example. Some would like to have Maggie with, make Maggie in a specific way. Fried Maggie, let's say, for example. I'm sure all of you would have had fried Maggie at least once in your life, a popular product in the college campuses. So fried Maggie, yes, no. So fried Maggie, if you notice, it is for a specific segment of customers, not for everyone, isn't it? Some people love, the ideal persona for Maggie is one who likes the normal Maggie, the 2-minute Maggie, which they cook it with the normal masala. Maybe another segment will have a persona which likes more of masala. That's why the extra masala that comes in, Maggie meal maker and other things will come in to add that extra masala. So that's a different segment altogether. Now the point is, you need to look at who is asking for it, whether you need to include that in the product. Tomorrow, if you're launching a new product, what kind of variant you can bring that across? All these aspects would get easily defined if you have a persona very clearly. If the new product that you're going to bring in, you see that there is a new segment, there is a new persona which is completely different from the existing persona, you would be able to make use of it. Then there is a reason for you to launch that variant. So personas help you to define and decide there in a way. See, the problem when you're working with the product is there can be a lot of good ideas and must-have ideas. I don't know whether you have heard of it. Good to have, must-have. These are two things which are very important when we discuss about the product. Good to have is, okay, I can live without having those features. Okay, there, I'm okay. If it is there, it's good. I'm happy about it, but that is not a mandatory one. But must-have, that must-have means that feature should be there. For an ideal persona, what is the good to have and must have if you define it? It is easier for you to prioritize and include it in the product. So if you try to build for all the users in the market, then you're building for no users. This is a very popular philosophy in the product market. Never try to impress everyone. You will end up impressing no one. So identify whom do you want to impress. That's where the ideal persona comes into picture. So this is where the moment you fix the persona, you will start applying those design thinking principles. You start looking at what is that this persona would need from me. What is the problem? What is the lifestyle? What exactly is the need of this persona? Can I look at it specifically? Can I come up with a solution which will be acceptable to that persona? Let's say if a persona named Marcus represents 70% of your customers' goals, behaviors, and profiles, then automatically the question would be like, would Marcus do this? If I give this product, will he buy it? If I make this change, will he love it? So that's where personas become very, very effective. They become very powerful when they are very specific. Because in a target segment as such, you won't be able to define it so precisely like this, like the way we are talking about it. Personas, you'll be able to define it in a precise way. So through personas, when you understand your customers' motivations, expectations, abilities, you have a better, clear picture, accurate picture that will help you to design the products, design the service, and it will help the persona or the customer to choose your product over others' product, because you know the customer very well and you're able to offer what the customer is looking for. But counterintuitively, precisely defining the goals, motivations, and the needs of a narrow slice of customers and deciding for them will not necessarily narrow your market as such. It is not actually narrowing your market, you're just defining it for a specific one. On the contrary, it actually enables you to fully focus your efforts on satisfying and delighting those customers. Remember, as marketeers, the very purpose of doing marketing is to delight the customer, exceed the expectations of the customer. To exceed the expectations of the customer, you need to have a customer persona. You need to know more about the customer. The moment you know more about the customer, it is easy for you to give that wow feeling for the customer. So, and the moment you give the wow feeling, the customer becomes loyal to you, the customer becomes advocate for you, and the customer will start recommending your product to others. Have you heard of this rollerboard suitcase? The popular ones that you're seeing, I mean, in the recent times, the last few years, you would have seen this VIP suitcase, aristocrat, all the advertisements, right? Have you seen them rollerboard? I'm sure all of you will have one, if I'm not wrong. If you're, I mean, if you have started traveling, most probably post your MBA, when you start traveling, you will get one for your travel. Actually, this particular product is actually designed for a small customer segment. So if you have been flying, so I've been flying for the last 10 years, you would see that, okay, the aeroplane has this particular space where you can load the suitcase. So the suitcase size should be so much. And for hand baggage and check-in baggage, the dimensions are very clearly defined. So the rollerboard suitcase is specifically designed for people who are flying on flights. They complete with retractable handle and wheels, and it is not actually designed for you and me. It is for the air flight crews, because they are the ones who generally do not have a check-in baggage. They always try to take the hand baggage, and this suitcase is very comfortable for them. It's easy for them to drag it across. It's easy for them to put it across in the bin. So it is easy for them to travel with that. So it perfectly met their needs. Compact, simple, easy to all around airports, and just the right size to fit a few change clothes. That's all. So thanks to this, the persona for this product, the flight attendant, was extremely satisfied with it. And they popularized this so much. Now everyone who is traveling in flight is looking for this rollerboard suitcase, isn't it? So personas can actually help you to design such perfectly adapted products. The funny thing here is, you may be designing products for specific customers, specific personas, but out of nowhere, you'll realize that there is a different segment of customers, different persona buying your product. They may not be belonging to your target segment. They may not be your ideal persona, but out of nowhere, they are buying your product. Even that may happen.
There must be some gap where that product or services goes and fit over there.
Exactly, yes. So that's why if you notice, many a times you may be surprised that, okay, I mean, I did not make this product for you, but you are enjoying this product. So I would be feeling it good. And sometimes the companies have also repositioned themselves to target this new segment. Any examples that you have seen in your life where a product was designed for a particular segment, but some other segment started using it accidentally, and you realize that, oh, this is another segment I can target, and the company has repositioned it completely. Any examples?
But talking about Activa, it was initially launched as a female vehicle, but ultimately it was used by males more in India. So it became available to both.
Very good, very good. But
one more example I want to give.
yeah, please.
Sir, the example of jeans. Jeans was specifically meant for the miners who worked on mines and who work for the who work in a heavy duty labor job. But it was suddenly get popularized by the means middle class and upper middle class, and now it's means every user product.
Very good. That's also a good example. Yes, yes. Any other interesting examples from the class? Good, good. Two good examples. That's nice. So had we gone with the ideal persona there, most probably initially we might have discussed, or people would have looked at jeans only in a specific way. But yeah, so you can always create new personas from the way the customers are using the product also. That's perfectly fine. Okay, good. Now let's look at what are the big benefits of a thoroughly researched and well-developed personas. For able to identify personas correctly, what kind of benefits it can offer you? Let's look at that. It can guide your decisions around design and functionality in a better way. So as stand-ins for real users, these personas can guide decisions about design and functionality. Like, for example, we discussed about Marcus as a persona. So what is Marcus going to use this product for? Will he use it for this? Will he use it for that? Why do you think it's the purpose of it? If Marcus' needs and skill levels are already defined, it is simple to figure out how to serve him better. It is simple to figure out what can I cross-sell, what can I upsell, isn't it? The moment I know more about the customer, the moment I know the ideal customer for a particular product, I know whether this customer will buy my product or not, just by matching it with the patterns of the ideal persona that I have created. So personas help prevent programmers or designers from creating products that would be perfect for themselves, or from making guesses about what customers want. Because the moment you gather all the data and create the persona, it becomes easier for you to identify what works and what doesn't work without doing any kind of testing as such much. And a persona helps keep the end user involved in the product development, because the whole product development is guided towards this persona. So, I mean, I always ask this question in interviews. Maybe I'll ask this open question to you. Usually, which comes first, product or STP? Product design or STP?
STP.
Are you sure?
STP. Yes, sir. STP comes first.
STP comes first. Okay.
In modern marketing, or if you're talking about the traditional, then there would be a product would come first. But in current scenario in modern marketing, we could say STP come first.
No, I think I think product design should come first, because based on the product design only we will segment the market, and then we will select our target audience, and then we are going to position it into the minds of the customers. So product design should come first.
We create product based on the customer needs. So first to identify the need of the customer. For that, I guess STP will come first and then after product.
Okay, good. Okay, so this is where the popular MBA answer comes in, isn't it? It depends. Maybe as a counter example, you're right. All of you are right actually. So Siddhartha is, Akash, everyone has answered it right. Let me give some examples. Usually you start with segmentation. You understand what the customer need is, and then try to understand what would be the right segment to target, what kind of pricing, product, everything would work for them for this particular problem. You look at it and then provide everything. Then you start with the product, you target and position and everything. But look at it otherwise. Take the same Maggie. Do you think Maggie is developed for Indian market? Maggie
No.
was already there, isn't it?
Yes.
So it was very successful
sir.
for Nestle in other countries, other geographies. They brought it to India, isn't it? Now in this geography, they are trying to find out, okay, who would be the right ideal segment for me? Of course, they have their own data from other geographies for them to help that out. But in India, the geography, I mean, the target may change, isn't it? May vary. So it purely depends on lot of factors. Sometimes you bring in products from other geographies and sell it across here, and then identify, okay, for this product, who can be the right segment target and how to position it in the minds of the people. Or sometimes you start with the segment, you look at what the segment needs, what kind of problems are there, and then you try to identify a product for it. So both happens, just to help you, just to give you a broader perspective. Okay. But yeah, as people rightly pointed out, in the modern day world, the best case scenario, if you're starting from the scratch, it's always good to start with the market understanding. What does the market need? And then start looking at the product, and then all the other aspects which Kotler defines comes into picture. So when you have an ideal persona defined, it is easier for you to define what the right product development should be, what kind of features you can bring it across. Personas also help you to design for a manageable target. It allows you to concentrate on designing for a manageable target who represents a larger group. Because mostly if you look at it, like let's say, for example, even take Maggie. Maggie means there are so many customers. It's a broad target segment that you're looking at. But when you want to design the variance of the product, let's say, you need to be aware of the personas. It's not one persona which is eating Maggie, isn't it? There are so many personas that are there. So you need to ideally look at the different personas. Who can be the ideal customer? What do you think is the differentiation factor between this persona and this persona for this product? So focusing on one customer segment and fully satisfying, it is much more efficient to increase sales and profits. So when you identify those segments, when you identify that persona very clearly for that segment, it is easier for you to target and provide what the segment persona is asking for. So trying to satisfy all your customers at once does not work. So that you need to remember. So clear goal and to design and marketing teams. So when you have personas, it gives a common and consistent goal to the design and the marketing teams. There is no lack of clarity as such. The moment you define a customer persona like Marcus, you say that, okay, the Marcus has this motivation, this level of proficiency in dealing with the product. So that will be in everyone's mind while designing the product. If everybody works to satisfy the Marcus, not only the design of the product, but also the message sent to the customer will be convincing and consistent. You know what to speak, you know how to speak to the customer while presenting the product, because you know why he is buying the product, you know what he is looking for in your product, you know his levels, how he is going to use the product when you give the product to him. So clear goal to design and marketing teams. And personas are great communication tools, by the way. When you want to prioritize design elements and to resolve design disagreements, which commonly happens, me and my boss, we always fight it out. What features have to be included? What features should not be included? Because whatever I say, I would have a strong opinion that, okay, from my experience, I'm telling you, this is something which has to be a feature in the product. My boss comes from a different background. He will have a perspective on why that feature should not be there. That's where personas come into picture. My persona, the product of this product's persona, do you think this persona will be able to manage this feature? Will it be useful for him? Will every person in that segment with that ideal persona type, will they use the product, this particular feature? When we start thinking in that direction, it becomes very easy. So it becomes easy for us to explain the decisions to the colleagues, people higher in the company hierarchy. So it helps use of personas, helps refocus on the conversation on the target customer. So personas become great communication tool because you're able to explain and pin it down very clearly on what they will look for. And of course, the different dimension of the same point is the moment you have a deeper understanding of what your persona is, your product's persona is, you can easily identify the opportunities and product gaps that can help you to drive the strategy. So having a precise idea of the target customer, actually trying to see points from that persona's point of view is a very good beginning for the brainstorming, as I was just explaining to you. Any new product, when you pick it up, that's the best way to start brainstorming. And novel feature product ideas will always come emerging. Just imagine if you define a very clear-cut ideal persona for BIMTech. Don't you think there'll be a lot of ideas coming out on how to communicate with the ideal persona, how to target them, where can you find them? There are so many things that gets addressed, right? Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
A
Yes,
big
sir.
advantage. You will be reducing your overall customer spending budget acquisition. By the way, how many of you watch Shark Tank here? Anyone?
Sir, have watched 1 or 2 episodes, not more than that.
By the way, anyone who is doing an MBA becomes an ideal persona for Shark Tank. So you
Yes,
all
sir.
should watch it.
Yes, sir. We got a project on Shark Tank when we were in third term in a subject called E-Lab.
Oh, good. So you should try that, boss. The reason I'm telling you this is you get a lot of ideas, you get a better understanding of business, management, entrepreneurship. Today, we are in a very sweet spot. This country is in a very sweet spot where entrepreneurship is going to boom. You are seeing a lot of entrepreneurs coming up. 43 unicorns, if I'm not wrong, right? 2021. Now, 2022 is also starting with a bang with a lot of companies becoming unicorns. So when entrepreneurship is picking up, such shows will always take it to the houses and motivate people to do more. And for you as an MBA, when you watch this, the biggest advantage is learning these terms like customer acquisition cost. Not many professors will be able to use these terms, or it can't be taught in the classrooms, by the way, right? So you need to watch them, you need to get a feel of what is happening. And when you hear some new terms, you need to read. Just like my profs used to tell me, like, read Economic Times every day. I'm sure you will not understand most of the things, but please underline, explore, learn, and then go back the next day. The Economic Times will be more friendlier to you. You will understand more terms in that, more jargons in that paper. So same thing applies to you. Yes, Vicky, please go ahead.
So I had a question.
Mhm.
So in the last line, you said novel features of products and ideal products.
Mhm.
So, sir, what is the particular process when a company is going to launch a novel product in the market? Do they make personas still?
Okay, so think of it this way. Let's take, for example, even Apple. For Apple, we always say this, that they don't do market research, right? Is that
Yes.
right?
So we can say that. First, particular. So which product are you talking about?
The first product, let's say, for example, iPad or anything that is newly launched, iPhone, iPad.
I had that same example in my head, sir, because they didn't do any market
Correct.
research and they launched.
Correct. But do you think they don't have they did not have an ideal persona in the mind when they did that?
Sir, I'm not sure. That is my question.
Good, Vicky. Yes, I'll answer that. Your question is right. Very good. So when we talk about not listening to the market and coming up with a new product, okay, now all you're trying to do is I know that there is a segment of customers in the market who are ready to pay more, who are ready to pay a premium if they get a new, good, high quality product. A good technology, if I'm able to offer it, there are people who are ready to pay a premium for it. Correct? So that understanding, definitely Steve Jobs would have had. Without that,
Yes,
he
sir.
would not have launched the product, correct? He would not have the
Yes, sir.
confidence to launch it. Now, somewhere the statement that I made, like there is a segment of people, or there is a persona, if I have to use it in this context, there is a persona of people who are keen to buy any new innovative product coming to the market. What we usually popularly call it as early adopters. Have you heard of this term in marketing?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So early adopters are the target segment for most of these companies, innovative companies.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So somewhere Steve Jobs should have had in his mind that, look, I'm going to target this segment. I know that I'm taking a risk, but this segment loves innovation. This segment loves a new product which is creative. Even if I charge a premium, they're ready to pay. They have the capacity to pay. All I have to do is launch the product. So what kind of product they would love? He did not do a research, but he knows that there is a segment which is ready-made available. There is a persona which is available to buy the product. And all he did was give a wow factor to them. Like, okay, if this is what your expectation is, I'm going to beat that expectations by giving something new. Till Steve Jobs was there, if you notice, every launch of the product was seen as a kind of a gala event whereby every media house will be predicting what kind of feature the product may have, correct?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
There was always a very high expectation, but mostly most of the media houses will not be able to guess it. But today, any Apple product launch, people are able to guess it to an extent. Like, oh, this feature has leaked, that is going to happen. But till Steve Jobs was there, it was always a big surprise for the world on what he is going to launch. So persona was always there, but what they are going to consume, or what can I give for them to consume, that's where the surprise element came in. So Vicky, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
Good. See, in fact, this is something a lot of companies also try to do it. Like, for example, Yattle and Jio, do you think they cater to the same persona?
Sir, similar persona, but not the same persona.
Okay, what is the difference between the two personas?
Sir, it can be geographies can be changed, because I have seen at some areas Geo's network is very strong, and they emphasize on that particular geographic areas. And in some other areas, Airtel network is very strong. They put a lot of effort in that particular area. So they means the geographic segmentation, and the targeting of geographic segmentation might be different of both the audience, of both the companies, sorry.
Okay, any other responses? Think about it again. Jio versus Yattle, don't you see any other difference other than the network?
Other than geographic, I don't see other.
Okay, so let's go back to the
Sir,
pricing.
recently we have seen that.
Mhm.
I'm so sorry, sir.
Please,
Sir, I
please go ahead,
interrupted. I'm
Vicky.
so sorry.
Go ahead, no worries.
So recently we have seen that Airtel is going to tried catering to a premium segment by launching
Very good.
Airtel Black.
Very good, very good.
And we have seen previously from 2016 or previous to that Jio is targeting mass market by launching low cost subscription based offers.
Absolutely right, Vicky. You're bang on. If you notice, do you remember what was the Jio's initial pricing when it was launched?
Free.
Unlimited calls for?
Free.
What was the price? Yeah, it was free, but you have to pay something, right? Overall, what was that per month? How much was the price?
Initially, it was absolutely free. After that, they started charging very less. It's like 150 something.
Exactly, yes. That 149 they charged. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir. I remember. I was doing
Why do you think
engineering
that
at that time.
149 number came in? Any connection? Was it random? This is where persona comes into picture actually. 149, if you notice, have you heard of this term ARPU? ARPU?
Not yet, sir.
No? Okay, no worries, boss. So ARPU is nothing but average revenue per user. Average revenue per user means you're saying that, okay, in telecom company, I mean, primarily in telecom industry, the companies measure how much revenue they get from the user on an average. And their goal, almost for every company, the goal is, boss, 150 is the average revenue per user which they want to target, because that's when they can break even. That is, they are spending so much money, they'll be profitable if they get 150 rupees from every customer. In fact, Yattle was trying to do it in different ways, like value-added services and other things, to convert that to get more premium. But when Jio launched, the logic was very simple. Okay, all we need is 150 rupees, correct? Good. Now, how can I acquire more customers? If I get 150 from every customer, I'm going to be profitable. If I get more customers, I'm going to get more profits. Now, how to get that 150 rupees from my customer? It doesn't matter
So,
what
sir,
service
are
I
you?
provide. Yes.
Oh, sorry, sir. Sorry, sir, to cut you between.
Please tell me.
I was telling that was there economies of scale which Geo was calculating?
Jio is always a mass player, right? They are not kind of a niche player always. Okay. And their simple logic with respect to pricing is, if 150 can make me profitable, why should I look for a competitive pricing and then scaling it up and stuff? Let me give I need 150 rupees. That's all. The logic is simple. So let me price it at 150 rupees. Let me give everything for free. The data, calls, and everything. That's how they started it. That's how they captured the market. In fact, Airtel's strategy is slightly different. Their strategy is, boss, I'll give you quality service. I'll give you quality network. The calls won't drop. The postpaid connections will be better. I'll give you this extra OTT platforms and all these things. Everything in competition to Jio, of course. But their persona is, the target segment persona is different from Jio's persona. In fact, that's where is the difference, primary difference. Jio wants to cater to everyone. There are people who come to Jio for entertainment. There are people who come to Jio for data. So they have multiple personas even in that segment. But Airtel, to a greater extent, they have minimum number of personas compared to Jio, because their goal is very simple, as Vicky pointed out. It's more about targeting the premium customers so that they can earn more per customer. So focusing more on margin than on the volume of the SIMs sold. But Jio is focused on volumes than on the margin per customer. Okay.
So, sir, can we say that Geo is doing undifferentiated targeting and Airtel is doing multi-segmented targeting?
In fact, Jio is also doing the multi-segmented targeting. Both, I mean, almost everyone in the space, they do multi-targeted, segmented targeting and campaigning also. Because if you notice, not everyone will have the same need, isn't it, IS? Like for you, take our own class example. The 20 students in the class now, I'm sure some of you would be having Jio as the second SIM card.
Yes, sir.
So some will be having Jio as a primary SIM card.
Yes, sir.
Now, do you think both are same personas?
No, both are different.
So definitely the persona is different. So obviously the moment you say persona is different, that means you're targeting two segments, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So this is, I mean, even Airtel also does the same. Airtel knows very well.
Sir, but
Airtel,
Geo's segmentation is more like undifferentiated targeting. They are not means they are not differentiating their one customer to another, unlike Airtel.
no. So I will call this as a blue ocean strategy to begin with. Okay, you know blue ocean strategy is. bringing something
Yes.
new, uncattered space they targeted to a greater extent. But now
Yes.
that blue ocean strategy is disappearing because everyone has started adopting the same thing, correct? Now, how do you reach more customers? I mean, of course, that's where the segmentation comes in. That's where the positioning comes in. That's where targeting comes in. Like you target a particular customer, understanding what he is looking for. Why is he using Geo? Is it for data? Is it for unlimited calling? Or is it for the entertainment platforms which Geo is providing? So different people use it for different reasons. So obviously different personas will come into picture. That's what is the multi-segmented strategy. There is nothing called as undifferentiated strategy here. They differentiate themselves against the other players in the market for that particular segment by calling it out like, I know that you love entertainment. Let me give you the latest movies in this Geo app. They call that out explicitly for that particular segment, for that persona. Make sense, Ayes?
Yeah, okay, sir, got it.
Good. So Vicky, I hope I answered your question also. I think we started with your question. I hope that question is answered.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Now, when you have the persona clearly defined, it becomes easy for you to continuously evaluate your designs, validate your designs based on personas to reduce the frequency of usability testing. So if the whole programming team tries to make a product design for Marcus, there should be fewer surprises when you conduct the real life testing, because you know Marcus very well. Marcus is the imaginary character here. Since you know Marcus very well, it is easier for you to give what Marcus wants. So these are some of the biggest advantages of defining a persona. The moment you know the persona better, everything becomes easy. Be it designing the product, be it communicating the message, be it prioritizing the features of the product, be it even offering some discounts, be it giving some pricing discounts, whether you want to give it or not, how much you can give. All these aspects will be very much clear if you know the persona very well, if you're able to define the persona very well. Now let's get to working with personas. Okay, let me start with a simple video on personas design thinking book from the design thinking habit. Let's look at what personas are.
Personas. What are they? To represent the different types of users for a possible product or service, expectations and needs of a group of real users, thus that might be found on the market. Particularly useful in the idea of a persona individually while trying to solve their problems, specific solutions for their needs and behaviors. Users' relevant characteristics and their polarities. For example, young and old, these aspects are combined to create different personas that represent the user's extreme profiles for stories created with the needs that enable the personification of this archetype.
By the way, what is design thinking? I know this is a very popular term in the market. I'm sure you also would have learned it as part of any of your course. Can you tell me what is design thinking?
Sir, design thinking is the process of designing a business model or a product or service model using the ideation. There is ideation, empathy, prototype.
Yeah, define and test. These are the things, right?
Yeah, and define and test. Yes, sir, and define and test. Yeah.
So important aspect of design thinking is you try to empathize with your persona. That is, who is your target segment, who is an ideal customer for you, that is persona. You empathize with the persona, and then you try to understand what the problem is. And then you look at all the other things like ideate, generate ideas, and then prototyping it, and then testing it, everything else you do. So whenever you talk about design thinking while developing the products, you should remember that you are actually talking about empathizing with your ideal customer. That is nothing but the persona. So tomorrow, if somebody is going to talk about like boss design thinking, you need to apply it. Remember that we are talking about empathizing with the persona and trying to understand what the persona is going to think about our product. What is the problem? What is the solution? All these aspects from the persona point of view. Okay. So working with personas, that's something you should remember. So when you embark on the process of creating customer personas, actually multiple personas will typically emerge because you have various customer segments, you have various use cases. So obviously there will be multiple personas. Actually, the number and the type of personas reflect the diversity of your customer base. Most of the products, if you notice, the personas will keep on changing, right? There'll be so many customer segments that you may have. It shows the diversity of your customer base. So never you can say that I have only one persona, I have only one ideal customer base. Not really. Mostly there'll be multiple people. So look at some of the automotive websites like cardeco.com, carvale.com, gadi.com. They have different types of customers that research information on cars. So some customers, you can look at them as auto enthusiasts. Some are parents with kids, just for commutation, safe commutation as a family, they would like to buy the cars. There are other significant segments of the customer, like customer base, like young professionals. Just because they have started earning now, they would like to buy a car. So I'm sure that there is also a persona segment like my family. I can take my family also belonging to that, like car as a status symbol. That is to begin with. So till now we have been riding on two-wheelers. Now we are earning enough. We should buy a car, even though there is no need for it as a family, but still we want that to show that we have moved to the next level of the society. How many of you have bought cars like that? I still remember my dad bought it, and it's still a kind of a showpiece at home. Whenever I come home, I take that car. I'm sure some of the parents would do that, right? I mean, we definitely understand there is nothing wrong about it. It's that emotional connect that they have on how they perceive it. Like the moment your salary crosses something, you'd like to buy Benz. You'd like to move away from the normal cars to a kind of a luxury segment car. Personas are different. Different people do different things for different reasons. So it is important for you to identify one ideal persona for every base, every segment that you are looking at. So same way, one such car company in US, they created 7 personas from the data that they collected. What kind of data they looked at? Interviews, surveys, on how customers reflected automotive information online. So they broadly split the customer base into 4 primary and 3 secondary personas. So actually, when you break them into primary and secondary, it actually helps your marketeers, the website designers, developers to decide on what kind of information you need to display. Because at the end of the day, why do you want to create a website? To showcase the information to the people who are coming there. So you need to know what kind of people are coming there, and accordingly categorize them, personify them, and based on that, provide the information. So primary customer segments are embodied in primary personas that want many details about car specifications. So they generally look for information related to engine, body, performance, feature details, all these details. That's what they are primarily interested in. So the 4 primary segments or personas that they have identified, this company, they saw very clearly that all these 4 personas, they are looking for complete details about the car. Okay, like you would have seen it in Maruti ads, right? Remember, after explaining all the details, finally, what is the question that the person will ask for? Do you remember that?
Mileage. Kitna deti hai?
Kitna deti hai, correct. So that's also a unique customer persona, right? There is a persona like that.
Yes.
So we need to be aware of it. We need to be conscious of it. And there are secondary personas here who represent another significant portion of the website to visitors. They are not intimidated. They are not interested in the minute details that you're providing about the car. Finally, all they want, like kitna deti hai. That is a segment. What is the price? Okay, how much I can get it on road? What is the mileage that I would get? AC, non-AC, what are the fully loaded car, normal car without all the specifications? They will just look for all these things. That's all. They will not get into too much of details. about the car performance, diesel versus petrol, that kind of analysis and all, they will not be getting into. So personas are very, very important for you to identify. So in building the personas, as I told you, there are primary personas and the secondary personas. The key characteristics identified in the surveys or any research equipment that you have used, instrument that you have used to define the persona, like the type of the car, new versus used, the emphasis on the price versus style. So key characteristics that you're using, that will be treated as a primary persona. Like take, for example, Bill. This particular car company, they identified Bill as a persona, not a real name, a name for the persona, that's all. An ideal persona, primary persona for the car company is 34 years old, single. They possess a strong opinion about car brands and style, less interested in what others think about the car, rating. They would love to research cars whenever they have time. And the defining quote is, I have to have a new car every year. I'm sure you would have seen people like this, right? At least in your extended family circles or somebody you know, they will belong to this segment, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
That's a primary persona. So look at this one. This is how you define a persona, by the way. You are clearly saying that this is the background of this type of customer segment, this ideal customer, this is the goal, this is the target car that they would have. So you're clearly defining it. This is primary persona. Secondary persona, take Sam, for example. Sam is another persona type here. That's all persona name. We can give anyone. Like, for example, IS can be the secondary persona name. So Sam doesn't like researching cars, or this is the first one she's buying on her own, maybe. She's just out of college and is looking for a good deal on a used car. So style doesn't matter. Maybe she wants something reliable but fun. Used car is also fine. And our defining quote, if you have to summarize what Sam is all about, buying cars is intimidating, but I have friends I can ask. So the focus is not on too much details. The focus is on taking the friend's opinion, getting their choice, understanding which car is better based on the friend's opinions, and then buying that car. So this is called secondary persona. Again, for Sam, it's a clear definition here. 23, single, fresh out of the college, trying to buy a car, first car. So based on these two personas, primary persona and the secondary persona that you just saw, can designers do something? Yes, definitely. So having the relevant information about Bill as well as Sam, the designers can be sure what kind of specifications they can put it across. So they need to balance between both the persona types, the primary as well as the secondary ones. So who will visit the website to look for basic information like features and reviews? So Sam is not interested in the technical jargon, but Bill is interested in. So the designer will provide summary information and graphics to denote high and low gas mileage vehicles and price, and display prominently on the car detail page, display the rates. So that's what they would do. Designers can easily play around and provide the necessary information, which strikes as a balance between what Bill is asking for, what Sam is asking for. So two persona types, primary and the secondary, depending on your analysis of the data. And based on the personas coming in, you are taking some conscious decisions. Okay, so this is where personas are coming into picture. Now let's understand more about what customer data can do for you. Okay, good. So maybe we'll take a quick break here. Getting more personal with customer data, that is, how can you identify personas with the help of customer data? So this is where the analytics part comes into picture. Till now, whatever we understood is more about marketing. How customer data can help in marketing through the concept of persona. That's what we were discussing so far. Now let's look at the data part. This is where the interesting analytics perspective comes into picture. Now, one thing you would have realized so far, we are using data to define customer segments. So broadly speaking, there are 3 steps that you generally do. You collect the appropriate data. That's the first step that you do. You collect the appropriate data of customers. You are trying to broadly define who those customers are. So look at the standard questions or starter questions that you may have across different areas. Personal info we saw, which is more of demographic attributes, we saw that. Professional info, which is also important depending on what kind of products that you are selling across. Job title, career path, company, industry, company size, special skills. What is a typical day like? What tools do the person use? Who is the boss? Do they manage others? How is their success measured? These are all some of the inputs that may help you to define your persona in a better way. I still remember while I was in one of the consulting firms earlier, when we were trying to connect with the customers, understand the technological landscape to propose analytic solutions to them, there were a lot of companies who were ready to sell us the data. Okay, so they create a database using different conferences, different public domain information. They create databases, and using the database, you'll be able to relate to and identify which company uses what kind of software, who is the CXO of it, what is the mail ID, and what kind of skills the CXO has, and what kind of technological landscape the organization has. So which is a critical input for you to define an ideal persona, which is very much easy for you to target those customers. Okay, so professional info definitely helps. Then you move on to the third segment, values and fears. What do they value in their personal or professional life? What is important to them? Considering a product like what we are selling. So what objections might they have towards the product? What drives their decision-making process? Is it price, quality, what exactly it is? Then look at the goals and challenges. Personal career goals, how do they prioritize? What challenges impact achieving these goals? How could you help? What questions do they ask when seeking solutions to the challenges? All these aspects will help you to understand more about the customers, data that would really help you to personify an ideal customer for you. And where are they? Location information. How do they get the information? Which channels they are active in? How do they communicate? What media do they consume? Do they belong to any association? This is another important aspect. The moment you identify where people are, what kind of network they are in, all these aspects helps you to communicate better to them, understand what would work out for them. So which social media platforms do they use? Do they attend events or conferences? Where do they spend their days? Do they have relevant hobbies? So a lot of these aspects, you try to bring that across to define who your customer persona is. And of course, the negative info, that is another aspect you should not miss when you talk about your persona. Are there customers you don't want? A persona whom you want to reject? Too difficult or too expensive to support? You don't have enough budget? Or wrong industry? Why exactly you do not want to target a specific persona? So an ideal persona doesn't mean that anyone who is not fitting in will not be the target segment. Of course, you would love to acquire the ideal persona, no doubt about it, but you should also define a ideal non-customer for you. That may also help you sometimes. So you need to be aware of it. So first step is collecting the data across all the parameters, the composite data type, the multidimensional data about the customer. And in fact, I think in the last exercise, we were discussing about how e-commerce companies collect data for segmenting the customers. In fact, it is in the same lines. You need to look at what kind of touch points you can create with the customers and what kind of mechanisms or processes you can put in place to capture more details about the customers, and how can you very well put together a story about the customer in the form of a good persona. So first step is collecting the appropriate data. We will look into details of it. How can you do that also? I will help you out. Second one is dividing data. The third one is identifying and refining the personas. So dividing data is nothing but segmenting in a way. So I'll just come to it down the lane. So collecting the appropriate data, the most important rule in building the persona is the information you use for it. Ideally, you should not make it up, or it should not be based on opinion. Because today, if I ask you a question, who is the ideal customer for your college or ideal persona for your college, you all will be sharing your opinions. You're not going to give me the right factual information. Your opinion is going to be based on facts, your experiences, your perceptions, and other things, but it's all opinions at the end of the day, isn't it? So you need to base your persona. If I ask you to define a persona, you need to base your persona on actual data. So getting that actual data is something which is very, very critical. So what kind of data that exists for you to define the persona for your college? Can you give me some answers? Data sources?
So data sources could be the query forms which the aspirants used to fill in the college websites, and the CAT aspirants data who has recently given CAT, and the MBA aspirants who used to give their information to the websites like College Dunia and all.
Good, as I agree with the first point. That is, you're talking about the query forms or the application forms filled by the customers or the potential customers of the college. But I'm not able to relate to the second and third point, because second and third point is a broader one. It may not define the persona of your college, right?
Yes.
Is that right?
It is a very broad. It is a very broad segment.
So you're still talking about the target market. You're not talking about your ideal persona, correct?
Yes, sir.
We can use the data of all the pass outs from the college.
Okay, pass outs from the college, yes. So who are the successful people? Maybe that can be an input for you to define who is the ideal customer for you. That may be one of the reasons. That may be one of the factors, yes. So collecting, aggregating, and analyzing customer data. It can be from your customer databases like application forms or the alumni database and other things. And it can also be in social media. That helps provide input into a data-driven persona process. So you need to collect data from multiple dimensions, multiple platforms, and then start using them in defining the persona with the help of data. That said, although you want your customers to like your product, the best data to start with is not obtained by asking your customers what they like or don't like. So maybe that is not the starting point for you to define who your customers are. So personas concentrate on what a user does, what frustrates them, or what makes the life bit easier for them. So age, job, interest, you need to collect all those details, and you should look at what makes the customer happy. A good persona is a narrative, not just the objective definition of the persona. It is the subjective, it is a narrative, it's a story which describes a lifestyle, which describes more about the customer. And that describes a person's typical day and experiences, as well as the skills, attitude, background, environment, and goals. So you need to identify the motivation. And motivation doesn't come out easily. Even with the application form that the students fill in for the college, you won't be able to identify the motivation. Maybe the statement of purpose or any other things with multiple questions asked, maybe from all the responses, you may be able to form a opinion about motivation. Still, it may not be 100% right. So motivations, expectations, aspirations, behaviors, common to a large segment of customer, you need to synthesize it, and then you need to define that ideal persona. So start with the demographic data. As I was telling you, start with gender, age, how frequently they use the product, etc. This tells you a lot about who your customers are. However, it rarely includes information about motivations and goals, which are essential in building a persona. But at least to begin with, you have something to start. Then you start doing the primary research. This is where you will start collecting more about the customers. their motivations, aspirations, expectations, you will start collecting through the primary research, like conducting a new survey, interviewing customers, observing, usability testing, and also a bit of secondary research. Let's look at them. That will help you to understand what you can do. Conducting a new survey. You know, the survey is one of the easiest way to do it, right? Of course, as part of your college exercise also, when you were doing, if you had been given an option to do market research, obviously the default choice would have been survey, because you can survey customers, you can survey the existing customers from the customers list. It's easy for you to share a form, a questionnaire, online, offline. It is easy for you to collect the data.
Yeah, I see it is still going on, sir.
Still going on.
Yeah, this our college management is doing the survey for the for our batch.
Oh,
exit feedback.
Exit feedback. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And usually people do not give a very honest opinion on any exit feedback. Have you noticed it? Nobody wants to spoil the reputation when they step out. I don't know about the students generally. They did not do it at my college, but of course, yes, if they're doing it, please share honest opinion as much as possible so that it will help the organization to improve to the next level. Okay, so
sure, sir.
Good. So the companies, or the, I mean, like yours, like for example, they surveyed the existing customers from the customer list, that is getting the survey done by the batch, or the prospective customers, like they can go fill, I mean, ask a future applicant, like one of the applicants, they can ask, we can ask them to fill the form. So using panel agencies that recruits qualified customers or prospective customers, all these aspects can be used to collect data about the customers, an ideal customer. So in addition to the basic demographics, ask questions about motivations, goals, challenges. So a survey can always help you out on that. The next technique is interviewing customers, which is another popular technique. So you get a better understanding of the motivations, goals, and challenges when you engage in a conversation with an individual. So you can conduct some interviews in person or over the phone and gather as much details as possible. The important thing here is don't cold call customers. So try to ask for customer who voluntarily comes up to provide you information. Allow customers to opt in and opt out. Okay, so depending on their wishes. In fact, I'll tell you, last week I got a survey from one of the colleges on the feedback of the recruitment process, like what did we feel about the students of that institution. So as an organization, we were asked to fill in, and of course, as an incentive, they also said, like, if you fill this, you'll be getting an Amazon voucher of so much value. So in a way, incentivizing the interview or the time that you spend, effort that you put across. So that is one of the popular ways. Interview to understand their expectations and motivations, and try to avoid the focus groups. See, unless you, I mean, have you heard of focus groups? Have you done any kind of survey related to focus groups, focus GDs kind of? Anyone? Okay. I have done this before when I was an MBA student. So for a market research for one of the companies. Yeah.
Yes, sir. When we try to interview or survey, the one thing which we have taught that you always take the homogeneous audience. Means there should not be any bias in the group or interview which you are targeting. So
homogeneous or heterogeneous?
Heterogeneous. Sorry. Means there should be there should be no bias. In that.
Correct. A mix of people who are using the product. That's what is the right approach. Yes. But the problem is the focus GDs, when you do it, people can be easily influenced by the personalities. And obviously they can be influenced by the ideas that are initially shared across. So that's a problem with the focus GDs when group of people come and talk about something. But if it is interview, it is about one's opinion, one's individual opinion, their problem, their frustration, their goals, everything would come out eventually in a one-to-one interaction. So interviewing customer is one of the best ways to understand more about the customers. The next one is observing. So what is observing? We all do this, right? As marketeers, as entrepreneurs, if you run a small shop, obviously you'll be observing the customers very clearly, what they want, why are they coming. So you watch users as they buy the product, as they use the product, the competitor's product, or just try and solve problems on their own. Whatever they are doing, you observe. That can give you a lot of input details about the customer and ideal persona. So this is usually called as a ethnographic research or field studies. In fact, thanks to the modern day world, we have a lot of technologies available today, which helps people to collect data with the help of a technological gadget. So I don't know whether you have heard of it. Some of the market research companies use wearables like the Fitbit band that you have. So when you visit larger stores like DMart, Big Bazaar, or Reliance, Supermart, when you get in, there'll be somebody at the entrance asking you like, boss, can you cooperate? Can you do a small, can you be part of a small research? They will ask you. And they will offer you something like 10% discount or so much voucher for just wearing a band and then walking in. Now, when you wear that band and walk in, if you take that research, if you are ready to be part of the study, if you just walk in with that wearable band, it collects continuous details of where you are standing, near which counter you are standing, which shelf you are standing, how much time you are spending in each category of products. So what you're adding to the cart, obviously with the wearable data and the billing data, once I start clubbing it, I'll be able to see more. More details can be collected about the customer. In fact, my brother was involved in one of the Amazon's outlet at the Amazon Go in US. He was given a $25 voucher to just do the shopping in Amazon Go store. So $25 voucher is a very good amount for shopping. So people try to incentivize you and check on you to define that, to understand more about you as a customer, so that they can define the ideal persona. So observing us is another important one. And then of course, usability testing. So you have your users attempt common tasks with your product or service. Don't ask them what they like, what they dislike. Just watch them, just observe them, interact with it, and look for the pain points and the opportunities to improve your offering. So if you're in the tech product world, we call it as a user acceptance testing to a greater extent. So people try to look at the product, give the solutions, recommendations on what can be improved. So that is definitely there. So these are some of the techniques from the primary research point of view, where you directly interact with the customer to collect the data about the customer, which can help you to define the ideal persona. The next one is secondary research. If interviews cannot be conducted, or surveys cannot be commissioned, or partial second-hand information can be obtained from within your organization, from different departments like sales, marketing, customer support, tech support, and everything, then go for secondary research. But the only problem with secondary research is usually it is not the ideal one to begin with, because when you create personas from second-hand data, they are usually better than not building personas at all. That is, you're going by somebody's research. What is secondary research? Secondary research is nothing but somebody's research for some other purpose. You're using it for your context and your purpose. When you do that, you cannot create a strong persona out of it. Even if you create a persona for your context from that, it is not going to be usable. That's a common problem. Okay, I hope you have understood how the data can be gathered, the different techniques that are available for you to gather the information. I hope you got that information. Now let's quickly look at the best practices. Of course, when you want to collect the customer data for creating a persona, you need to use a mix of methods, surveys, interviews. You have to minimize the opinions and the guesses, because you'll often notice a behavior in an interview or a field study, and then you can look to understand its prevalence by conducting a follow-up survey to a larger set of customers, so that you're validating whether you're able to capture something beyond. So here I would like to share a bit of my experience. In my B school days, we used to have something called as disguised market research. Have you heard of this term, disguised market research? Anyone? Disguised
No.
market research? No. Okay. Anyone from Lucknow here by any chance? No. Okay. So we as IIM Lucknow students, we used to conduct a fair in the city every year called as Index. Okay, and it's usually called as the Lucknow Mahotsav or something like that. I mean, not Lucknow Mahotsav, some other name. But for us, internally, it is called Index. For Lucknow people, it is more of a fair. So internally in the campus, we invite companies. The companies give us projects, market research projects. Different companies come with different problem statements. And they would like to understand more about the customers through market research. So I did it for Mahindra Rural Insurance at that point of time, 2010-11. And the whole college will be split into multiple teams. Each team will be having around 20-22 people, mix of seniors and juniors. And around 20 teams would participate in it. So roughly 400 people participate in this contest out of 700-800 people in the campus. Now these 20 teams will bid for every project that is coming from the company. We'll all be submitting the proposals. The company will choose a project team based on the proposal that has been submitted. We got selected for Mahindra Rural Research, and we were given this project. And 22 people in our team, so we called it as Cash 22 team. The whole goal of this was to conduct a disguised market research. The beauty of this whole fair is the public who are coming to the fair will never know that they are part of the market research. So there will be cultural events, there will be stalls kept across, and through the stalls, we will be conducting some games and events within the stall. Each stall is given to one project team. And in that project team will come up with ideas, innovative ideas to make the customer answer to some of the questions that the company would like to find answers for. So one stall will go with Ramayana story, one stall will go with Mahabharata story. But of course, we will club the product story along with that story, whatever we are pinning it across. And then we will try to make people come into the stall, play the game with us. While they are playing the game, they will be answering the questions for us. Once they do that, we capture all the responses. The customer will never know that they were actually giving responses to a market research by a company. Everyone will win a goodie for every stall that they visit. That doesn't mean that everyone can visit every stall. So at the entrance in the reception, while registering, while coming into the stall or while coming to the fair, based on the basic details that they fill, demographic attributes, age, gender, and everything, the stalls will be identified, which stalls they can visit, because we also have a target segment, right? And those people will come and visit our stalls. We will make them play the game, capture the data, and we got selected. I still have that one. Maybe if I switch on the camera now, you would be able to see it behind me. So let me quickly share this across. If you see, is my camera on? Can you see me?
No, sir, it is blank. I think the shutter is off.
Okay, let me quickly check that. I don't know. Fine, it is okay, boss. No worries. I don't know where things have gone wrong. Okay, so the camera, I mean, I still remember we got the first prize for this one. So it's a cash prize of around 25,000 for the team. And that was the best market research project I've ever done. And the goal was to define the persona. Who is the right persona for the rural insurance of Mahindra? The goal was to define why they are buying it, what is the lifestyle, why they are interested in insurance as such. Are they aware of insurance first of all? So all these aspects were identified with the help of the disguised market research that we conducted. So the important purpose of conducting disguised market research is to remove the bias, which generally comes in when you do the normal market research. Because when you conduct the normal market research, people tend to share opinions. They try to think about what the other person is thinking, why the question is asked, and they think of different motivations. So this case market research always works. That's a best practice that you should try. It is always an art and a science to conduct a good survey and interview questions. In general, you don't want to lead customers down a predetermined path. So I'm sure you would have studied this in market research. Leading questions you should never ask, because you want to get the answer for what you want. So you are not looking for new inputs. You are trying to gather data for your existing hypothesis, which should not be the case. Avoid questions that suggest an answer of having a simple yes or no questions. For example, would you like this product to be easier to use? That's not the best way to ask question, isn't it? Maybe a better question would be like, if you could fix only one thing about the product, what would it be? So that it's open-ended, the customer is able to answer, and in a way you're able to understand more about the opinion of the customer to a greater extent. Once you gather all the data about your customers at the company level, try to organize the information and present the data in the form of a visualization. Okay, so visualization is something like this, where you tend to put across the dashboard. So dashboard will talk about customers by industry group, employee size, average revenue that is coming per industry group. All these aspects you can put it across, and then you'll be able to define it in a much better way. So this is one of the important ways of defining the persona. So slicing and dicing of the data becomes very, very critical. Now, once you collect and gather data, the next step is to divide the data. So how do you divide the data? Let's look at it. You look for themes, you look for patterns. As we were discussing at the beginning of this course, AI, machine learning, analytics, big data, all that we do is to identify patterns that are relevant based on the behaviors and the goals you're trying to find out those patterns and themes. Categorize the open-ended comments that you have got or actions observed in the field studies with other similar comments that you might have had already to identify those patterns. In particular, look for patterns all around, what they expect to accomplish with your product, how they go about achieving the goals, what their technical background or product proficiency is. These are some of the things that you should consider while looking for themes and patterns. And it's important, it's useful to brainstorm at this stage that whether you need more information. Is there a way that you can group data in other ways? You can look at it. Sometimes, like for example, we were conducting a research on the major email providers like Gmail, Yahoo, and Hotmail. After surveying some 1,000 users, there were some repetitive comments on how Yahoo changed its interface too often. Maybe this is a good candidate for understanding how often Yahoo actually changes this interface and what type of customer is averse to the change. So you can define a profile, a persona of the customer who is averse to the changes based on the data that is collected. So once you divide the data based on the themes, based on the patterns, then the third step is identifying and refining the personas. So you define an initial set of personal primary personas, as we described in the previous example. If you look at it, I was talking about the automotive website, right? Where I was telling you primary and the secondary persona, same way. Now, this will constitute your set of characters the product or the marketing team should focus on. So for each persona here, for each group that you have identified based on the data that you have collected, now create a realistic portrait of the persona. Identify which details that make the persona more real. Is it the name, the picture, the personal history? Give all these things to that persona so that the person, the profile, the persona that you're creating is looking more realistic for the marketing team to follow. But purely based on the data that you have collected around demographics, lifestyle, behavior, whatever aspects that we saw earlier, the fears, all these aspects. Then create a portrait with data that connects a persona to a customer segment, the ones that I just mentioned: goals, habits, expectations, skills, attitudes, motivations, environment. Consider all these factors and then define the persona. Again, remember, They are not amongst your target customers. Some personas can be new characters also. In fact, some of them could be examples of whom you are not designing or marketing for, correct? They may not be your target segment, but you have gathered the data from them. And just imagine, you should not overdo the persona process also. Sometimes some people tend to have this habit. They may invest a lot of cost in it, invest a lot of time in it. But for the time and the cost that is invested, there is a very diminishing return. So focus on the right parameters. Don't be overworked with the documenting every detail, or don't spend too much time on documenting creating bloated documents. So all you need is the definition of an ideal customer. That's all you're trying to create with the help of the data that you're bringing across. So creating a good persona requires the mix of qualitative and the quantitative research. The qualitative data that comes from surveys, interview questions, and everything. The quantitative data that you gather from e-commerce websites and everywhere, wherever you're gathering data, the customer touch points, whatever you're collecting, because that's where the real analytics comes in. The other one can be sentiment analysis, intent analysis, which can help you to define more about the customer. So at the end of the day, all you want to do is capture one page, one short, brief history of an ideal persona. Remember, it is not a job description. So stay away from the duties, tasks, and responsibilities of the ideal customer. Concentrate more on the skills, attitudes, motivations, environment, and goals. That's what will help you to create a good persona. So finally, to quickly summarize whatever we discussed on the identification part, never rely on one source of data. Always look for multiple sources of the data. Now I'll connect the dots with the definition that we saw. Composite view of the customer. So when you look at multiple touch points, multiple sources of the data like segmentation, interviews, surveys, observations, definitely you will understand more about your customer. You will be able to define the persona of the customer in a better way. Then you get a buy-in. So interview stakeholders from sales, product development, product support, marketing, and check whether the persona that you have defined, is it right or wrong? Because with all the wealth of experience that each team has worked on, they will have a perspective, whether you are thinking in the right direction, whether your persona is the right persona which they have been using for. So connect all the dots, collect all the details, and then establish it. And also don't base it on one customer. That's not the right way to do it. You need to find a mix of customers, the right group, but majority which follows that persona type. That's what you need to consider. And distinguish the types of data. Data that connects a persona to a customer segment. Like for example, the proficiency level with your software. For example, if you're selling a SaaS product, maybe that's something you should consider. Data that only makes the persona more real to you. Like for example, you're considering a personality you already know as a customer. So that's because you know that customer, you're considering that person as a real customer or an ideal customer for you, which is not the case, which you should not do. So anonymous data of multiple customers would actually help you to analyze the customers in a better way to create these personas. Good. Any questions so far? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
So I'm just moving to the last segment of this topic before we do a class activity. So answering questions with personas. That is, what kind of questions you can answer with personas? We saw the advantages, benefits in a way you would have gathered that, but still let me summarize it here. The moment you use data to define personas, there can be a lot of details, answers that can come to some important questions that a customer cannot define. Like for example, how can you make your product very easier to use if it is a B2B product? What is your product's top task or top benefit according to the customer, according to the persona? What is motivating the customers to use this product over the competitors? Why do they come to you over others? How do you develop a successful marketing strategy for the product? That again, you will be able to define it. So by using a persona to answer these questions, your design and marketing teams will have better clarity because they can empathize from the user's shoes, and they can better meet the real person's need and wants. So that makes a big difference here. Let's quickly touch upon a simple case study of United Airlines, an example of how persona can be defined in the context of airlines. Look at Will Swanson, a fiction name, as we were looking at it earlier. He is a 52-year-old civil engineer working for a consulting firm involved with multiple projects in China. So every time he travels to Beijing or Shanghai, at least once every 2 months, always flying from Chicago. So additionally, once a year, he will also fly with his wife to Hawaii for a week or two, also to visit his parents. So he routinely uses United Airlines and usually pays for his flights online using his United credit card. So he visits the United website about once every 2 weeks. Okay. This is a persona of an individual, okay, who is using United Airlines. Now look at the other profile, other persona. Laurie O'Reilly is a 30-year-old K-12 English teacher who lives in New York. Once a year, carrying coloring books and pencils, she flies to Florida with her husband and their 2 young children. There they enjoy some family time in the sun. And twice, Laurie found a special deal and they went to Bahamas instead. Instead of going to Florida, they went to Bahamas. So Laurie has some flexibility around her traveling dates, which enables her to look for the best prices, unlike Will. So she does not own an airline credit card, but she does buy tickets on the internet. She does not have any special preferences for United Airlines, but however, she visits the website about once every 2 months to check the ticket prices. Now, if you notice, Will as well as Laurie, both are customers of United Airlines, but they have different personas altogether. So if you conduct interviews, if you conduct surveys to both of them, definitely there'll be varying responses. So like, for example, if you ask them what is the most important feature of United Airlines website, both of them will give different answers. For Will, the important feature can be to quickly find the exact flight that he needs, right time, right destination, no layover. That's what he would look for, considering his frequent travel. But for Laurie, it is the ability to find the best possible deal, because she is okay with the time, flexible with the time, exact destination, and does not mind layovers. But she wants to pay as little as possible. So she is a price sensitive customer. Will looks for the best convenience, best comfort for travel. So if both of the customer segments that we looked at, like Will and Laurie, the segments represented by these personas have to be satisfied. Both have to be satisfied. And both of these tasks need to be easy to perform without getting into the way of one another. Correct? That's what we need to do on United Airlines website. So the moment you define these personas, obviously there will be some answers that you can get. So the marketing team can use Will and Laurie's personas to segment the airline's customers and reach them in different ways. So Will may respond to email campaigns easily. So any special frequent flyer program, Will be definitely responding, be it over email or other channels, because he's tech savvy, is using website very efficiently. Laurie might appreciate time sensitive emails from United alerting her when there has been a price drop on a family friendly beach destinations, because Florida or Caribbean, there is a commonality, that is beach destinations. Whenever the price for the flight ticket goes down, if Laurie is informed, Laurie will be very happy about it. So she will be keen on that. So two personalities, the moment I know the personas very clearly, now I can design my campaigns, design my offerings, and connect with those personas, the customers with those personas in a specific way. That's where the marketer starts using the persona details. So it's a simple example of how personas enable you to efficiently and effectively understand, identify, and communicate what the user needs. And usability testing is obviously the other strategy that you can use to identify specific opportunities to improve, innovate on, and bridge the gaps to make sure you are delivering a fully functional and usable product. That's always there. So usability testing is always an option for you. Another good example for you to understand about customer personas and how some of the questions can be answered for the marketing team would be GoPro. Have you heard of this brand GoPro before?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Very
sir.
popular brand, right? So this product, if you notice, was exclusively designed for one user that reached a surprisingly wide audience. So it was prototyped and developed by surfer Nicholas Woodman. Okay, so Woodman designed a wrist strap with an attached video camera to record himself while surfing. That's what he did. And he hoped to produce professional quality footage of himself while on the water. That was his goal. So he had a very specific need for the camera. For the task, he needed a camera that had a very wide viewing angle, that was waterproof, that could be positioned in different ways, and that was not very expensive. He soon realized that he would have to design not only the wrist strap, but also the camera. So obviously for his need, he had to design a camera completely. Now focusing only on his needs, Nicholas came up with this product, but that became a perfect product for a lot of people. It actually exceeded the original market, the California surf culture, and is now sold to snowboarders, skiers, social activists, countless others all over the world, because somewhere the persona, the need was common across different areas. So this is what I was telling you at the beginning. A product which has been designed for one purpose can actually start serving multiple audiences. So defining the right persona can actually help you to solve multiple problems. Okay, good. So any questions so far? Anything you'd like to ask?
Sir, my question is, should a company focus on when they create a persona for us for their product? So should they focus on that particular persona, or should they make multiple personas and try to find a common ground among those personas?
Good. As we were discussing earlier, multi-segment strategy. Okay. So depending on your analysis of the customer data, okay, as let's take our college. Now, whatever data that we have collected about the students, if I start analyzing them, just like we were discussing about customer segmentation earlier in the last session, if we start analyzing them, we'll be able to identify multiple segments of the customers. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Based on demographic, interest, preferences, there'll be so many segments. And for each segment, will you be able to identify a persona for each segment? Who
Yes,
is
sir.
ideal customer for every segment? You will be able to do it. Now, the moment you define that, it is easier for you to understand what kind of changes you need to bring to the curriculum, what kind of courses you can launch, why they are coming to your college. Let's say, for example, a lot of people say that, okay, people are coming for entrepreneurship. You don't have an incubation cell in your college. Maybe this input, this ideal persona that you have created, and you see that this segment is very popular, very large also, that may prompt the college to set up the incubation cell. So you define multiple personas based on multiple segments that you have identified. The persona with all the motivations, fears, and everything that you do, that you identify about the persona, will help you to cater to the segment in a better way. So obviously, to a long answer short, so we will identify multiple personas for multiple segments.
Okay, sir. Got it. Thank you.
Perfect. Good. So we have a class activity. For that, I would start with this video and then we'll get on to the activity that you may need to do. So what is the buyer persona and the customer journey? Let's quickly look at this.
Having spent time with the client to really understand their needs, it's time to go deeper and make our designs appeal to the most important audience of all, the client's customer. Start by searching Customer Journey Map in Canva. Let's use this one. This 2-page document will help us consider the client's audience. The first page is about a specific potential customer called a persona. Along the top, you'll notice some instructions. These will keep you on track. Personas enable the designer to empathize with the client's customers. By understanding the audience, the designer can create solutions to address their specific needs. If this photo doesn't represent your audience, go and find one that does. There, that's more like it. Let's give them a name as well, so we really feel like we can get to know them. Describe the persona's key attributes. An attribute is defined as a quality or characteristic of a person. They can be positive or negative attributes. Don't overthink this. Just put in a few labels that will describe this audience. Any insights gained from research and client discussions will come in handy here. In the short description, you could further explain who they are. What are their demographics? What are their interests? What motivates them? Describe the persona's needs and challenges. A need is a necessity, things that must be met in order for the customer to be happy. Challenges are blockers. What's getting in the way for this persona? What's stopping them from meeting their needs? Finally, we can identify opportunities for the client to make themselves more appealing to this specific customer. There, now we are understanding the persona a lot more. When a customer interacts with a business, they take a journey. The customer journey map visualizes each specific step in the customer journey. They become aware of the business. Their interest grows and they consider the business's products or services. They take action to purchase. Begin using the product or service. Ideally, go on to repurchase or recommend the business to others. Sometimes this is referred to as a purchasing or sales funnel. A successful journey is one where the customer moves seamlessly from one stage to the next. Touch points might be digital, like a website or advertisement, or physical, like a poster or signage. It's a point of interaction between the business and the persona. Understanding these moments means the designer can provide the right information at the right time. Are there any blocks as the customer moves along their journey? Do they experience moments of frustration? These are called pain points. Pain points stop the customer moving from one part of the journey to the next. For example, having clicked on an ad, the customer arrives at the client's website. Perhaps they read about the product, but don't understand how to purchase the product, and they leave the website. This is a serious problem. In the emotions row, move the dots up or down to reflect the persona's emotional experience at this point. These visuals will make it very clear where some work is needed. Finally, consider opportunities to improve the experience of the persona. Brainstorm solutions in the final row. The ultimate goal is to create a seamless customer journey with no pain points. Of course, a client's audience will be made up of different types of people, and different personas will introduce new observations. Develop more personas and customer maps to cover off the client's key customer types. Processes like this and the insights gained are so valuable when designing for clients. Discuss the findings with the client. Once all personas and journeys have been explored, it's time to move on to the next stage.
Okay, the reason for me to choose this video for you is this activity that we are going to have. A persona for our course, our program. So a simple activity. I will share this particular template with all of you. I would like you to try this out and create a simple